Now, this thing weighs 145 pounds. Okay, what the heck happened? Part 2 of the CNC review and information for beginners for woodworking and cutting on the CNC. I know it's been a long time coming. I've been a little busy and want to get back into the game of doing videos for you, can make sure get valuable information, can't talk, to you with regard to woodworking, beginning, and giving you all the tips and tricks that I can along the way to ensure that you know what's going on and how to start. So I know there's been a lot of interest governed with regard to the CNC, and I wanted to finish off the part 2. It's been a while since I did the video. I had intent of doing the second video, part 2, but life got in the way. So, okay, so let's get into it and let's take a look at the CNC. Okay, so now we're going to get into CNC part 2. Okay, in the first video, I kind of went through the basics of the setup of the system, the CNC in generalities, as well as the computer and the software that I use with regard to operating it. This video is going to get into a lot more detail as to what to look for and kind of get your head around when you're looking at a CNC. There are a lot of good CNCs out on the market. So I'm not going to be on one that I have, which is a Shapeoko. I'm not going to sit there and beat up on one or the other. I'm going to talk about the CNC in general. Okay, this has been a very good model here. I've had this one, wow, it's going on almost 3 years now I've had this one. And it's performed brilliantly for me. But there are some things that I want you to look out for. So let me give you some more information with regard to truly what it is, dimension, power, capability, and then the infamous probe. And I mentioned that, I think, in the last video that I'll be going over the probe. So this model here is the Shapeoko XXL, okay? And they come in 3 different models. Okay, I'm going to get my handy dandy notes here, okay? Because I want to make sure I give you accurate information. If you go to Carbide 3D, that's Carbide 3D as in dog.com, all one word. And you can find this information that I'm showing to you here. But I know it's kind of probably not cool to use a paper in front of me, but I want to make sure that I get you the correct information, not off the top of my head. So in your consideration for CNC, you know what's going on, okay? But anyway, this is the XXL. They offer two other models. They offer a XL, XXL, and then the baseline, the XL, and the XXL. This one here is the XXL. And basically what that means is it's basically the same CNC setup, but the bed size is the largest. And this model here does I believe it's a 32 by 33 cut. And that's what they say in the documentation. But I can tell you, that may not completely be true. The biggest signs that that I'm doing is 30 by 30, and in fact I did one the other day, and as you can see here, it does show the Shapeoko XXL cutting area 32 by 33. Okay, and now I'm looking at least the most I can do probably would be a 30 by 30, confidently. I'm not saying it can't do the 32 by 33, okay, but confidently I can do 30 by 30. That's about the max that I would push this. And I'll show you the bed here. And it's really easy to point out as to where I'm carving at, because I use a tool, a bit, which I mentioned in the last video, to flatten out the bed here. Okay, so let me give you kind of a brief walk around as to what is on the CNC. Okay, so got my handy dandy tape measure here because I wanted to show you that. Okay, so this is the bed that I was talking about, and this is the flat area that I have carved out to make sure that it's level when I carve. Okay, and this here is 29.5 this way by 29.5 that way. And as you can see from here all the way around in the depth that it goes in over there, when this is put on, it's not necessarily flat. I do go back and reflatten it on, just as I did on the other one over there, probably once a year. I do check it with a level. So I'll grab a level here and show you that it is currently level that direction, as well as appears to be level that direction. So you want to make sure that your bed is level. Okay, so when you apply wood down on this, that you're cutting level. Okay, it's not the bed causing any imperfections. Okay, now that doesn't mean that the board doesn't have any imperfections in it, which you can use a sander or you can use a planer. And I do use a planer on occasion if I have a board that doesn't necessarily have a bow in it. More so, it has dips in it. And I think I mentioned that in the sanding video, that you can tell by looking at it if it has dips in it. The best way you can tell is if you take a pencil and you mark across it and then you run it through a planer. Believe me, you'll be able to tell where the high points and low points are on that board, despite the fact that it looks very flat. You can get into the grain and all that fun stuff. And on my blog, I do have a, I believe, a post on with regard to sanding and the best type of wood, which would be more descriptive for looking at wood in the grain. But there are all kind of things that you can do with regard to the wood and make sure that it's flat. Well, you want to make sure the CNC is flat as well. So that's one thing that you want to look at. Okay. So we're going to look at the rails. I'm just going to try and like walk around the CNC. Okay, this construction here is put together with screws and belts. Now, there are other CNCs out there that use metal screws, and this one uses belts. And when I first started looking at the CNC that I wanted, I preferred the metal screw on the sides to move the arm there. But you know what? The belt has worked out very well. To be perfectly honest with you, I've never replaced these side belts. These belts right here, I've never replaced them. Although you should, probably. I haven't, but I haven't had any issue with it. The only one I've had an issue with, I'll show you here in a few minutes. But looking at the length, I'm going to use a tape measure here, and forgive me, I'm using just one hand, so a little difficult to do that. Okay, so I'm going to measure this right here. And as you can see, it's about 40, a little over 40, actually about 40 and a quarter long. Okay, and then we're going to measure it this direction here. And it is somewhere in the realm of 44 3/4. Okay, wide. Now, this thing weighs 145 pounds. That seems like a lot, doesn't it? But it's actually a good thing. That way it's not bouncing and, you know, going all across the table on you. Because that wouldn't be a good thing either. The weight, you want to make sure you consider that. If you order this and it comes in in 3 boxes. I think mine came in 3 boxes. Yes, it came in 3 boxes. And it was a lot of weight. And you had to assemble it. The instructions are very good on assembling it. They have them online through the 3D or the Carbide 3D website. And they step you step by step. And it's not hard at all to put this together. It looks hard. It's really not that hard. They have everything pretty much marked with AB connections for your wiring. And they tell you how to put all the pulleys and everything. Mostly everything's assembled. You just got to put it together. So it's not that much of a daunting task. Okay, so, excuse me. So let's look at some of the features of the CNC and what made it appealing to me. Okay, especially from the Shapeoko perspective. Like I said, the one was the size of the bed. The bed was definitely one thing that made appealing to me. The adjustments that you can do on this with regard to the height of your material was another consideration. And I've not seen anybody do this, but I know you can do it because I've done it. You can take this router and you can loosen it and you can raise it to give you more depth from the board here, or the base, to the bottom of the router, because right now it's static. Of course, it has the two mounting screws here that hold this router in, and you can raise this to about here, about halfway through, and that'll give you more space to do that. Now, and the reason I mention that is because I've been told by some folks that they're concerned about the thickness of the material that they're capable of carving. That pretty much solves that problem. I would definitely test it as you go along, and also make sure that you have the correct brackets to hold down your material. However you mount your material. You can mount your material in several different ways. Some people use two-sided tape that they put on the base itself and then to the back of the material and then do their carving that way. Some folks also use the track system, which is what I'm using here, and they use it either to bump against and compress the board in the middle between the front and the back bracket so it's flat against it, or the press down ones, which is what I'm using here. I prefer the press down ones, which can limit you in some of your routing, especially if you're doing edges and things of that nature. But I do my edges by hand with a router, so it gives me more flexibility. I don't necessarily do edging on the CNC. Okay, so you know the dimensions of it. I'm going to walk around the back here so I can show you the back, and I'm going to grab my my handy dandy checklist here, or sheet. Okay, so now we're at the back side of the CNC, and you can see there's a lot of wiring that goes across here, and it can seem a little intimidating. In actuality, it's really not. They label it, as you can see, very well as to all the connectors that you're going to put together. It can be put together. Don't be excited like a kid at Christmas and get the box open and expect you're going to throw this thing together within, like, 10-15 minutes. That ain't going to happen. It's going to take you maybe an hour, a couple hours, 2-3 hours to put together. I want to say it took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to put both of these together. So not too intimidating, but okay. So you have the wirings, you have the step motor on each side, okay? And this is a NEMA step motor, and it is a 23 stepper motor. This motor here and the other motors, which are located here, here, and here. Okay, none of these motors have given me an issue, and I've done close to 2,000 signs on this CNC. I'll knock on wood. Now that I've said something, of course, it might cause a problem, but you can get these motors after the market, in the aftermarket. Last time I looked, Carbide 3D doesn't sell them directly, but you can get these motors, okay? And they're not super expensive. So if the motor does go out, it's not a really big deal. All right, I'm gonna go over here to the side, and you can see the step motor hooking to the belt, and you have all these little wheels that run this track. And the same over here, you have the motor that runs this back and forth across the XY track, and then you have the motor that runs the Z up here. And then you have this wiring harness here. That is probably your biggest pain, is this wiring harness. And I'll give you a tip on that. When you're putting this together, it's not necessarily difficult, because the wire is, on this one, was already in the harness. On that one there, that I bought about a year later, it was not in the harness. But it's not a big deal, okay? You can get it in there and put it together by snaps. It has little snaps here all around the side. But the biggest tip that I want to give you is they use a two-sided tape, and I'll go over here. They use a two-sided tape down here to hold this to the bar, because of course, this moves. As this moves back and forth across it, this moves, and it's connected here, right up there, and then it's connected over here. Same thing with this one. It's connected here, and it's connected down there by the box. It's connected down there by the box, and it's connected here. Okay, so why am I explaining all this? Well, the reason I'm explaining all of it is because they use that two-sided tape, as I mentioned. It doesn't work real well. So I would highly recommend, for if you're looking to get this model or one like it, that you look at some metal screws to tap into the bar. Okay, Because over here, I mounted a metal screw here, and I mounted a metal screw over there, and I haven't had an issue with it since, because the two-sided tape was coming loose, and then this thing started floating all over the place, and it would drop down here, and it would cause problems with regard to the carving. So you're sitting here watching it, and you freak out because this drops down on your carving, and then it causes all kind of problems. So metal screws, that's a good tip. If you're looking to buy one of these, metal screws is a good thing. Okay, we talked about the step motors. We talked about the wiring harness. And then again, you can see for this track, it uses a belt as well. Okay, so I'm not going to take this thing apart to show you the biggest problem that I've had with this. If you want to call it a problem, it really wasn't a problem. But back behind here, this of course moves up and down. Let's see if I can get a good picture here. On this track here, much like it does going across here, it does move up and down. On these two tracks here, this sled does. It moves up and down. And there is a belt behind here that runs around a pulley up here, and then on the bottom. Now, if I've replaced anything on this CNC, that would be the belt that I've had a problem with. It broke on me once, and I replaced, actually, to be perfectly honest, I put staples on the static end of it, stapling, you know, like an office stapler, and put the two belts together because I didn't have a belt to replace it with at the time, and it held for forever before I replaced it with a replacement part. So I don't know if that's a good homemade remedy tip, but the two separated pieces, I put a staple in, 4 or 5 staples in, and it held fine. But don't recommend it, but it did work. You know, that's what you call in home engineering. But this sled right here moves up and down for your Z axis, and it gets a lot of stress. So I would recommend getting a kit, a maintenance kit, because these, I don't know if you can see it, these little bearings here on this little bearing over here, and this little bearing over here, and you can see them all over the place. There, I get my finger so you can see where I'm talking about. There, and then over here and here. These bearings, they wear out, especially on the Z. There's bearings inside. There's 4 of them. And it goes up and down all the time when it's carving. Get a maintenance kit, because you're going to need them, especially if you do a lot of carving. I've done a lot of carving on this. You're going to need them. So a maintenance kit, and I'll get it out and show it to you. A maintenance kit includes belts, bearings, and others various little things to help you repair this in a moment of crisis, you know, when you're in the middle of a carving and it breaks. And you go, oh my gosh, the client, I'm getting my client's sign done, or the wood project you're working on, and it just, my CNC just broke. And if you go to Carbide, their support's great. Carbide 3D, their support is awesome. Okay, I am not going to cut on it at all. They have been awesome when I've called them or contacted them with regard to that. But unfortunately, it takes a couple days to get the part in. And if you're working on a project and you only got a couple days, that don't work out too well. And then, of course, the client doesn't want to hear that you're delaying their sign for whatever reason. You want to be, of course, professional in getting them, you know, to their the product to them on time. So, consideration: get a maintenance kit. Okay, so let me show you a maintenance kit. Okay, so I ordered a maintenance kit, and it includes various things. Okay, you can get this on the Carbide 3D site as well. Like I said, I'm only talking about the Shapeoko here. The other CNCs I know are good brands that are out there, but the only one I have here that I can show you is the Shapeoko. So I am not sponsored by Shapeoko or Carbide 3D at all. I want to mention that up front. This is just my kind of like homegrown review to help you out in your decision making. So let's look at the maintenance kit. Okay, it comes in a box, and I am a pack rat. I keep everything. My wife loves me for that. Okay, so in the maintenance kit, you get all kind of cool stuff. Okay, so you get the belts, and these are all the various size of belts, as you can see. The belts that come in, and that's those belts on the sides and across the back, and then of course the Z up and down. Those are the belts you replace with that. Okay, and this comes in the maintenance kit, and it has all kind of goodies in it. Let's see what it has in it. Yay! Okay, it includes these, which are the connectors that you tighten down by Allen wrench that go to the NEMA motors that are on there. So if one should go out or the teeth should break on it, this is what the belt runs on the edge of the motor. It includes that. It includes the belt for Z behind the router I was telling you about. It includes all those little bearings and tracks that I was telling you about. And believe me, the one on the Z is the one that's going to wear out on you the quickest. If you don't have one that you can replace real quick, you'll find that it'll carve really weird on you. And of course, it's not working efficiently. So these are a must if you get a hold of them. Okay, and then it has the screws, extra screws for all holding it together and such. And it has a couple binders for the belts. See, all kind of stuff you can get. And this kit, I think when I bought it was $199, I think. But believe me, it's well worth it. You definitely want to have one. So let me show you also a couple things beyond the maintenance kit that I recommend. Okay, I recommend the Super Lube. Okay, and this is the only one that Carbide 3D recommends for the Shapeoko brand. It's a multi-purpose synthetic oil, and you use it for the bearings and other spots that need to move. Okay, not hard to put on. On a maintenance cycle on this, I might take a serious look and do maintenance on it maybe once. I'll take a serious look at it once a week, but maybe a serious maintenance once a month, maybe once a month and a half. Something along those lines. And I do use this to lubricate up all the bearings on it. So that does not come in a maintenance kit, but I would highly recommend that. Okay. I would recommend a pair of needle nose pliers, and I'll tell you why here in a minute. Okay, it comes with these to hold down your material. And of course I upgraded to the metal ones. All kind of stuff in here. It comes with a sleeve. Okay, and this sleeve is for where the router goes in. Now, this model does not come with the DeWalt 611. It actually comes with a Carbide router, but the Makita and the DeWalt both work in that, but you can't order it with it anymore. I don't believe. I think I read it. You can't order it with anymore. However, you can buy it yourself after you purchase this and get it. So when you order this, don't order the router, and you can get your own router, which is just your standard 611 router that you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's and such. The corded version, of course. Don't use the battery version. I've not tried the battery on this. I think I was scared that it didn't have enough oomph, you know, to carve. It works really well on my edging. I have a battery version on the edging, but okay. Trying to figure out here what else I can also show you with regard to that. Okay, so I also have some grommets. Now, this did not come with the Carbide 3D, but I recommended it because on the newer model, the holes for the accessing of the wires, as well as this one's on the bottom, that one's on top. This grommet works really well for inserting into that hole where the wires go into to keep dust out of the control box, as well as it works really well for the wires going into it and not causing any problems. Now, they do provide grommets, but I got extras because on that one over there, it didn't come with one on the top. It may have been a simple mix-up thing, but I get extras. I always have extras because I can't go down in the middle of a job run. Okay, so as you saw the DeWalt router that I use a lot of DeWalt tools because I have a lot of faith in them. I'm not sponsored by them either. They just last longer. And I beat up tools. I really do. I use them a lot and I beat them up. And DeWalt always works well for me. So I guess that would be an endorsement for DeWalt in some respects, but you know, if tools work, I'll continue to buy them. They are a little more pricey, but they last longer. So anyway, moving on. Okay, I always keep an extra router. Now, this is the type of router that you would buy for this model. It is the DWP 611. I always keep an extra one in the shop because I never know when that one is going to go out. Okay, and as you can see, it sits inside that cradle right there. Make sure I get that camera right back. I always keep an extra router around because they only last so long. About every 100 hours, you're going to have to replace the brushes or it's going to go belly up on you. So I always keep an extra router around. But this is the one you're going to buy. If you buy this, it doesn't, and you don't want to use Carbide's router, you can put the DeWalt in it and a Makita, which is what this sleeve is for, to fit in there. Makita, I think it's Makita or Milwaukee. Let's call it Makita. I always keep an extra router around. I know you're seeing the dollar signs just go up, right? Yeah, it gets a little pricey. I think I mentioned the pricing in there last time. I think this whole setup here for me was somewhere in the realm of $3,000. Computer and everything sitting here. I also get extra brushes. And I don't know if you can see those or not, but there's extra brushes there. Okay, why the extra brushes? Because this router, after about 100-150 hours, the brushes go out on it. Now, you can get a brushless one. I've not tried it. I have a brushless one for the battery version over there that I use for edging. But on this one, I use a corded version. And that armature spinning in about 100-150 hours, the brushes start getting a little weird. And you'll notice that you'll turn the router on and the light will come on the bottom, but it isn't running. Okay, what the heck happened? So you can get these for the DWP 611. And I buy them in packs of 4. I've already opened this one here because I replaced them on both of them actually here recently. And you can replace these. Now, if you want me to do a video on replacing the brushes, I can do that. Let me know in the comments on that. But these are so valuable. When you complete a job and it comes over here to 0, and you look up and go, okay, and you turn the router on once you get your job started on the software, and you go, the light's coming on, but it's not running. What the heck? Well, you got to take the cap off, and you got to pull the wire, and hence the need of those pliers. These will be a lifesaver for you to put these in. So I keep a pair of them over here. You can get these on Amazon in a 4-pack fairly cheaply. If you go, I think, to the manufacturer, it'd probably be a little more of an arm and a leg. I'm more in the finger, smaller price range. So always keep extra brushes around. Okay, so summarizing just a little bit, I've gone over the CNC's measurements, the wiring setup, some of the recommendations with regard to the metal screws, the belts, the ones that are going to cause you problems, if you have problems. I've not had any problem on that one for some reason, so it's kind of weird. But it's kind of like, you know, cars have personalities. Well, machines do too. So I don't know. Maybe this one's got whiskers on it and that one don't yet. I don't know. But the synthetic oil, the maintenance kit that I highly recommend to keep on the side, and keep your tools. When you put it together, you're going to get all these little Allen wrenches and everything. Believe me, you will use these. Okay, so keep the tools. And the different types of routers that you can go inside here, as well as the belts that you can order. And I'll put all these parts and everything and list them down into the description so you can see them. I'll try my darnest to find this. I think I got this at Lowe's. So, and definitely the link to the brushes that go out. Okay, so where does that put us? That's a lot of information. It's been almost 30 minutes on the video so far. There was one last thing that I wanted to show you, which was the profile, or the probe, excuse me, probe. Okay, and this little booger right here is made by Carbide. And as you can see right on the front there, it has a C. This little booger here seems to be elusive. Carbide has these on their website, and they run out of them all the time. So as soon as they come back in stock, it's like they disappear. So they have an email notification, and I would highly recommend you get on that email notification if you want to use this. Okay, and I believe it's $190. Don't quote me on that price, but somewhere in that realm. But this thing's invaluable if you're doing 3D, or if you're doing a lot of background cutout with the end mill bit. So it's very, very invaluable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how this thing works. Okay, it comes in 2 wires, as you can see here. And you plug it into the controller box. Now the controller box is, I'll show you the controller box. The controller box is right here. And you see that wire running out there on the bottom. Okay, that goes to the probe. And it's not difficult to put that in. Hold on. It's not difficult to put that into that controller box. It basically plugs into the board. It has an attachment on it, and it plugs into the board. And then the software recognizes it when you see the probe button, which I showed in the last video. I showed all the menu items, and I showed a probe. There's a probe on the jog menu. If you jog on top, and there's a probe button, and that's when you would use this. So I'm going to show you how I use this and how invaluable that this can be. But ironically, I don't use it all the time. I know that sounds weird, but I don't use this all the time. Mainly, I guess I'm doing it old country style. I'm eyeballing it probably 95% of the time, until I get into a 3D cut, or I get into a cut that I use a lot of end mill work on, where I have to swap out tools in the middle. I have a flag board on that I do, and it requires the end mill to cut out the flag part, the long stretches on the flag, and this is awesome for that. So let me get this together here real quick, and then I'll show you how this works. Okay, so I got a piece of wood put in here just as a demonstration, and I'm going to show you about the probe. Now, I've seen very little on this probe and how you use it. There's some assumptions that are made, and I like being thorough, so I know how to use it. So it was kind of scary the first time that I used it. I wasn't sure how the heck it was working, if it was working. I'd read a lot about it, but it just doesn't seem to be a whole lot of information out there on how to use this thing, other than the fact that what the purpose of it was and how great and wonderful it was. So I'm going to show you how it actually works. I think I've seen 1 video, maybe 2 out there. They may have changed since that time frame, because it's been it's been a while since I went and looked at this, because I was lucky enough to get one about a year and a half ago. So if you're looking to get one of these, this one here is proprietary to Carbide 3D, which works with the Shapeoko. There are generic ones out there. I cannot speak as to whether or not a generic probe will work with this device, or this CNC rather. So be careful if you look at a generic one. Now, if you're really into the capability thing, getting into the board and the circuitry and the code, and wow, if you're really into all that and you want to look at a generic one, with all the due respect in my heart, more power to you. I preferred to go with this one as soon as I could get a hold of one. So anyway, putting all that aside, so let's look at what it is. Okay, there again, so you can see the C emblem. I hope you can see that. There's a C emblem in here. There is an indicator light, and there's a circle down here in the bottom. On the back of it, it has a cutout shape to go on the edge of the board. Okay, it has a lead wire that runs back to your controller board over on the side, mounted in that black box. And you take this, and I'm going to move the camera so it's gonna, hopefully it doesn't freak out here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it right here on the edge of this board. Okay, so I'm going to place that edge right there on the edge of the board. Now, as you can see, it kind of hangs over the edge a little bit. See? And you want to scoot it back tight against that. And it kind of hangs over this edge. It's really bad on camera, but I'm trying here. So now we have that sitting on the corner. Okay, I'm going to position the router over top of it. Specifically, I'm going to put it right over that circle. as much of a dead circle, a dead center circle rather, of that as I can. Okay, so let me do that, and I'll give you right back. Okay, so I've put the router bit over the circle in the bottom corner, and I'm going to try and show you that. I really hope that it comes through in the camera. Maybe if I can move my light down here, it might help a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, here is the router bit, and there is the circle. So what you want to do is you want to put it in the center of that, as close in the center, or what you estimate to be the center, as possible. Now, why put it in the center? Because I can tell you, I've ran jobs where the documentation just says, oh, just put it in a circle. Well, okay, so I just put it in a circle, no matter where it was in a circle. I made that assumption. I might have been wrong, but I made that assumption. Well, you want to put it in the dead center of the circle as much as possible. Maybe they made that assumption in the documentation, and I didn't read into it enough, so that may have been my fault. But anyway, you want to center the tip of this in the center of that circle. I know, did I beat that subject enough for you? I'm sorry, but I'm trying to make sure you guys get the information. So I'm going to go to my software here, the Carbide motion software, which controls it, which I mentioned in the last video. And I'm going to bring that down to a smaller increment. And I'm just basically going to plug it over top of that, but I'm not going to put the bit on the probe itself. No, you don't want it to do that. Okay, now you see I have it as close as I can get it. You can actually do it higher. You can put this way up here if you want to. It won't hurt it at all. But you want to get it as much in the center as possible. Okay. Then you're going to take this wire, which is the second wire that comes with the probe, which I've put here as a ground. Okay, and the intent of this, as soon as this here touches the bit with this attached, this light, this indicator light back here, will turn red. And then that'll tell the controller box over here where this probe is and where you're wanting to start your job. Okay, because we all know the bottom corner is the datum, right? So I'm going to attach this to the bit, and then I'll demonstrate what I'm talking about. So to kind of review, I got this on the corner. I got the bit centered over the circle on the bottom corner. I've attached the ground. The indicator light is green. Okay. And I make sure that it's pressed up against that corner. And that's a good tip. If you're looking at the edge of your wood and it has really bad like serrations or bumps or something in it, this thing isn't going to be completely straight. So you want to make sure you have a good clean corner edge that you're going to put that on. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to my software. Hopefully that makes sense. On the jog, you can come down here to probe. Okay, so I'm going to click on probe. And then you can see it's a description of the tool, the probe itself, where to put it on the circle and all that good fun stuff. And then you can see over here, there's a type. Now, Z is up and down, right? Okay, so I'm going to drop the menu down here and show you that there are different options. Now, under the different options, you have Z, X, and Y, X, and Y. Okay, I can tell you from what I've used on it, and I don't do a lot of extensive stuff with regard to 3D here and there. I don't use this one and this one. I do use this one here the most. And I have occasionally used this one. So if you're just going to do a straight out board, no 3D whatsoever, and you're using a 60-degree bit, this one here will probably work fine. But I always use this one. I know it seems maybe overkill on it, but I always use this one. Now, you can see it's set to the 1/4 inch end mill, and that's typically what I do for background. And you can see that there are other options on this. I rarely use the ball router bits. I do use the end mills a lot, the 1/8, mostly the 1/4. Okay, so I leave it on 1/4, despite the fact it's a 60 on this demonstration, but I'm going to leave it on a 1/4. Okay, so you know what this is here, and you know what the tool is. So I'm going to say begin probing. So I'm going to move the camera down here so you can see when I click on that button for read probe, or begin probing rather, sorry, I want you to pay attention to this right here touching this right here, and then that red light there in the back. Okay, so hopefully I can get a good camera angle at it, and we'll give her a try. Okay, so did you see the red light come on? The red light come on back here. Now what it's going to do is it's going to come over here on the side, and hopefully I didn't set that down too far. It's going to tap that side there for that distance, and it's going to go over here and it's going to tap this side over here. Now, the reason it's moving 3 different directions is because I selected the Z, X, Y. And the X and Y is the sides, of course, and then the tapping in the middle was the Z to tell height. All right, so that was pretty descriptive with regard to the videos that I saw. What do you do from here? I didn't see anything on that. It was kind of like, okay, well, that's how you use it. Okay, how do I start the job? Do I change it? Do I move it? I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, there was nothing else out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this. I typically just hang it over here on the side. If I can get a hold of the alligator clamp, I just put it right there. And then I'm going to remove this as well. Okay, and I just kind of stuff it over here on the side as well. Okay, and you can see how it's sitting with regard to the datum. Now, it's dead on the corner. I mean, if you can look at the line that way and see the edge of that board, it's dead on. The part that freaks you out is the distance, for one. You know, because you're used to setting, if you do a lot of carving, you're used to setting this bit down here in this corner. And if you use the end mill, it won't always be centered. It don't look like it's centered, but it's centered. So basically from here, after you've removed that probe and put it away, you go back over to your screen, okay, and then you click on done. And then you go back to the jog menu, the jog sub menu, and then you go over to run. And I don't have a file loaded right now because this was a demonstration, but you would have a file loaded, and then you just click start job, and then it would take off from this point. And it already knows from your CAD software, such as the VCarve probe, what depth to put it in, how to carve, what it's carving, and all that fun stuff. So hopefully that made sense. I know I really went into depth on it, but there was a reason that I went in depth on it. It's because there's like no information out there on that probe whatsoever. You know, I think it's, like I said, I think it's like almost $200. But the information on how to use it out there is like, you know, so hopefully that was beneficial for you. So we went over the router. We went over some tips and tricks that I use on it. Like I said, I'm not sponsored by Shapeoko, but I will tell you this: that has been a wonderful CNC for me. Okay, so if you're in the market for a CNC, I would definitely check out this brand. If that works for you, great. They're at carbide3d.com. I'm not sponsored by them whatsoever. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever, but I do use their Shapeoko CNC, and it has been awesome. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. Hopefully the CNC part 2 was well worth waiting for. I'm sorry it didn't come out until later. It's been a year, as we all know. It's been quite the year. 2020 was quite the year, and a lot of life events going on. So I'll be doing more videos. I just did a shop tour, shop tour update rather, and I have several more videos coming out. Keep an eye out for the videos coming out, folks. I really appreciate your patience and working with me. Hopefully this provided you value. Subscribe and hit that bell, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.